Yeah, let's start our Abhidhamma study for lesson 14 by paying homage to the Buddha. Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. And this is Abhidhamma lesson 14. In this lesson, we are going to study about the 54 sense-pure consciousness. Okay, let's continue. And in order to know about more information about sense-pure consciousness, yes, I would like to suggest the Abhidhamma learners to study the original Pali text, if you can. But it is not easy because it is written in Pali. But fortunately, we have the translation made by the different senior monks, like the Venerable Nadara Mahathira and Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, etc. So through the English translation of the Abhidhamma Sangha, you can read the original text and the translation. And by reading the original text, you can catch up some words and some names. These are very useful to memorize the Abhidhamma, the meaning of the Abhidhamma. So in this lesson, we are going to study about the sense-pure consciousness, which is called Kama Vajra Citta in Pali. We already studied all types of Kama Vajra consciousness and sense-pure consciousness in English in previous lessons. So in this lesson, we are going to review, and also we are going to make sure that you understand the previous lesson, and also to make clear by a different way of analyzing. So here, the enumeration will be given by way of feeling and by way of roots, by way of prompting. Here, prompting means with encouragement or with force, inside or outside. Then by way of kinds. Kinds mean the wholesome, unwholesome, or resultant or functional. Then by way of quality. And here the quality refers to the beautiful or non-beautiful, the Sovana and Asovana in Pali. Then analyzed according to the plane of existence, and according to the individuals, and according to the moments of occurrence. Okay. So, and in this slides, the consciousness, 89 types of consciousness are given in the table. So from left to right, the column show the Lokiya Citta, 81 Lokiya Citta. Then the second column, you can see the two cells. One is Kama Vajra Citta, that is translated as the sense-pure consciousness. So today we will focus on that group of consciousness, Kama Vajra Citta. That Kama Vajra Citta can be divided into three. You can move to the right cell. So there, the rows, 3 rows from bottom to the top, yeah, that the lowest row, the akusala citta, then ahituka citta, then kamavachara sovana. We already studied all of them in previous lesson. So here I would like to remind you again how the consciousness are classified in different types and how we study. So from the bottom, akusala, we already studied. So akusala consciousness are divided into 3 according to their roots, the lobha mula, dosa mula, and moha mula. They all lobha mula 8, dosa mula 2, and moha mula 2, altogether 12. All 12 types of consciousness are unwholesome akusala in Pali. It is according to the nature, Then another second type of consciousness of sense-sphere consciousness is ahituka, 18 ahituka. There, according to the nature, it is not unwholesome. It is not wholesome. But you can find the vipaka. So vipaka 15, the vipaka 15. But in the Abhidhamma Sangaha, the classification comes according to the nature. The vipaka 15 are divided into 2 groups. One is a resultant, wholesome resultant. Another is unwholesome resultant. So unwholesome resultant come first. So 7 unwholesome resultant consciousness and 8 wholesome resultant consciousness. So these 2 groups are combined into under the vipaka, so resultant consciousness, because they have the same nature of resultants. So no matter some of them are produced by the unwholesome, and some of them are produced by the wholesome, but they are the same in the nature of resultants. So 2 groups are under the resultants. So 15 resultant consciousness and 3 functional consciousness. It becomes the 18 ahituka consciousness. And we will review them in the next slides. And we already studied. So I just want to remind you. Then the kamavachara consciousness are divided into 3. And the first one is wholesome, 8, and the second is vipaka, resultants, and the third one is kiriya, the functional. So in this way, we can recall the enumeration of the sense-sphere consciousness. Okay, this slide is already given in the lesson 6. So this is the table of the 12 unwholesome consciousness. So unwholesome consciousness are divided into 3, lobha mula 8, dosa mula 2, and moha mula 2. So how they become in different numbers. First of all, the lobha mula 8. So we can see in second column, they accompanied by different feeling. 4 are accompanied by joy. They are called somanasa in Pali. Somanasa sahagata. And the 4 consciousness are accompanied by equanimity. They are called upekha sahagata. So in this way, one type of consciousness become 2 group 2. Then they are different in the association of the round view of association with wrong view or dissociation with wrong view. So in this way, they become 4. So at the beginning, they are rooted in the greed, 1 types, and accompanied by joy and equanimity become 2. Then associated with wrong view and dissociated from wrong view. In this way, they become 4. Then some of them are prompt. Prompt means with by encouragement. They arise by encouragement. And some of them are unprompt. So they arise without encouragement. So in this way, that group of consciousness become 8. So this is just to review. Then dosa mula. So there, dosa mula, you can find only 1 type of feeling, that is called the displeasure. Then in Mohamula consciousness, you can find only 1 type of feeling, it is equanimity. So if we want to get the enumeration according to feeling, we have to understand and we have to remember the types of consciousness according to the feeling. We already counted and we already enumerated the different types of consciousness for 54 sense sphere consciousness. So in this case, we get in the unwholesome consciousness, 12 unwholesome consciousness, we can find the 4 consciousness are accompanied by joy, and 6 consciousness are accompanied by equanimity, and 2 consciousness are accompanied by displeasure. This is the way how we can analyze the consciousness according to the feeling. So if we know how to analyze in this way, the other types of consciousness also will be analyzed in this way. So it will not be much difficult for you. So let's continue to the next slide. Okay, here, to be easy, easy to remember the unwholesome consciousness, this slide will have you the Lava Mula Chitta, the consciousness rooted in greed are 8, and Dosa Mula consciousness are 2, and Moha Mula consciousness 2. This is quite easy. Then let's continue. Okay, so here, rootless consciousness. Rootless consciousness are called the Atharasa Ahituka Chitta. So in Atharasa Ahituka Chitta, Atharasa is 18. Ahituka Chitta, Ahituka rootless, and Chitta is a consciousness. So this slide also already mentioned in the lesson 8. Just we need to review, okay? So why they are called Ahituka, and okay, no problem. We already studied and we can recall what we have studied in lesson 8. So here, I just want to emphasize, I just want to refer the classification. Okay, so all 18 consciousness are devised of mental factors called hetu. So there are 6 types of hetu, 6 types of groups. All of them are mental factors, so greed, hatred, and delusion. They are unwholesome. And the other 3 bright root, we can see the bright root. It can be either wholesome or resultant, functional. It doesn't matter. They are the same in essence of reality. So non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. So here, rootless consciousness are divided into 3. The first group called Satta Akusala Vipaka Chittani. So unwholesome resultant consciousness, 7. Then second group, the wholesome resultant consciousness, 8. So they are produced by the wholesome karma. Then the third group a rootless functional consciousness. So this functional consciousness we already studied. It is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. It's just functional. It means it cannot produce any resultants. Okay, so there are three divisions or three groups of rootless consciousness. Then here in the rootless consciousness, there are 15 resultants and 3 functional. Okay, let's continue. But this is another way of classification. So 18 rootless consciousness can be divided into 3. And also they can be divided into different ways. They can be analyzed in different names. So here, Dvipancha Vinyana, the name Dvipancha Vinyana is translated as 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness. If you think about the 18 rootless consciousness, you may remember that the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, then tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. They are 5 sets. One is produced, or the 5, we can say the 5 altogether. 5 are produced by unwholesome karma. So that's why they are called the unwholesome resultant consciousness. And the other 5, the same types, or seeing, or eye consciousness, or ear consciousness, etc., are produced by the wholesome karma. That's why they are called the kusala vipaka, wholesome resultant. So in this way, they become the 2 set of 5-fold sense consciousness. They are called by the name of Dvipancha Vinyana. Then the 2 consciousness, receiving consciousness, are called the Sampradechana. So one is produced by the unwholesome, the other is produced by the wholesome. In this way, receiving consciousness are 2. Then 3 investigating consciousness. This is Santirana in Pali. Why they become 3, we already discussed in lesson 8. So the 1 investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity is produced by the unwholesome. The another 2, one is accompanied by equanimity and one is accompanied by joy. These 2 are produced by the wholesome karma. That's why the Santirana, or investigating consciousness, become 3. So we have to keep this all information in the mind so that we can understand the rootless consciousness properly. In this way, the 15 rootless resultant. So when we say the rootless resultant, mean that we will study the other resultant consciousness with roots. So this is the group of the resultant consciousness, but they are rootless. That's why 15 rootless resultant consciousness. In the other way, we can count them in 2 groups. 7 are unwholesome resultant and 8 are wholesome resultant. Okay, so 3 rootless functional consciousness can be enumerated in that way, the avajana, 2 avajana. So adverting consciousness in 5 doors, and adverting consciousness in mind door, they become the 2 adverting consciousness. They are called the avajana, 2 avajana. Then the hasitupada, spine producing consciousness. And you may remember this consciousness arises only in our heart's mind. Okay, this is the another way how we can enumerate the rootless consciousness. Okay, then let's continue. So here, the enumeration comes according to the feeling, accompanying feeling. So in 18 rootless consciousness. So if we try to enumerate by way of feeling, we have to know how many feelings. There are how many feelings. So there are 5 feelings, 5 types of feeling. So one is sukha. Sukha is the pleasure. Then dukkha is pain. So somanasa is joyful feeling. Then upekha is the equanimity, or it is a neutral feeling. So here in this group of consciousness or rootless consciousness, 18 rootless consciousness, we can find the sukha sahagata. This is the consciousness accompanied by the pleasure. Accompanied by pleasure, it is only one. Then dukkha sahagata. This consciousness accompanied by pain. You can check in the table we already shared in lesson 8. And also the somanasa sahagata, there are 2 somanasa sahagata. There are 2 consciousness accompanied by joy. Then 14 upekha sahagata. The 14 consciousness are accompanied by neutral feeling, which is called the equanimity. So in this way, we can analyze the rootless consciousness by way of feeling. So we can analyze the unwholesome consciousness by way of feeling, and also we can analyze rootless consciousness by way of feeling. The 2 can be named as the non-beautiful. So akusala, unwholesome, and rootless, ahituka. They can be named as the non-beautiful. Okay, so in non-beautiful also, if you want to enumerate, or if you want to analyze by way of feeling the non-beautiful consciousness, 13 non-beautiful consciousness, you just need to add the numbers of unwholesome and rootless. Okay, just introduction is okay. So for the next slide, so we will continue to study about the sense pure beautiful consciousness 24. So there are only 3 groups: unwholesome group, rootless group, and sense pure beautiful consciousness group. So only 3 groups. So we already reviewed 2 groups. This is the last group to review. So this is sense pure beautiful consciousness. Then also divided into 3. One is Atta Mahakusala. That's one. So Atta Mahakusala. In other way, it is called the Kama Vachara Kusala Chitta. So 8 consciousness, sense pure wholesome consciousness, 8. Then number 2 group, Atta Mahavipaka. So they are called, we already mentioned that in the sense pure beautiful consciousness. So Mahavipaka, great resultant, or they are called the Sahituka Kamavachara Vipaka. Sahituka is mean the with roots. So it is translated as sense pure resultant consciousness with roots. Okay, they are 8. And the last group, Atta Mahakiriya, or it can be said the Sahituka Kamavachara Kiriya. So this also Sahituka, so with roots. Sense pure functional consciousness with roots. So to classify, one is wholesome group, second is resultant, and the last one is functional. It is easy to remember. So 3 groups, all are 8 in number. It becomes a 24 sense pure beautiful consciousness. So in the traditional way of Abhidhamma study, we memorize all of them. In every consciousness have to make sure, so we have to memorize in the traditional way of study. So in this case, you can read and you can check again and again, and then that will be clear in your mind, and then you can recall in any time you need. Okay, so let's continue. We have already studied the 54 consciousness and reviewing one after another. So here, 54 consciousness are listed. So Dwarasa Akusala and Atharasa Ahituka and 18. Then Chatuvisati Kama Vachara Sovana Chitani. So these are 24 sense-sphere beautiful consciousness. This is the way how we can remember 54 sense-sphere consciousness. So they are named sense-sphere consciousness because they usually arise in the sense-sphere realms, 11 sense-sphere realms. Okay, so next slides. So here in this slide, you can see the enumeration by way of feeling. So we enumerate all collectively 3 groups. So in 3 groups, according to the feeling, Sukha Sahagata, the consciousness accompanied by pleasure, is only one. You can find only one in the rootless consciousness. Then second type, Dukkha Sahagata, the consciousness accompanied by pain. You can find only one, that one, 2. So that is unwholesome resultant consciousness, bodily pain. So here in this case, there is Sukha and Somnasa, Dukkha and Domanasa. So they share the same nature, but the Sukha Sahagata emphasizes in the physical pleasure. And Somanasa, number 3, Somanasa, the feeling joy. It is emphasized on the mental pleasure. So mental feeling. That's why they are divided into 2. So Sukha and Somanasa, Dukkha and Domanasa. In the same way, the Dukkha refers to the physical pain. So Dukkha Sahagata Kaya Vinyana, that is body consciousness accompanied by pain. You can find it in the rootless consciousness. Then that number 3, Somanasa Sahagata. So we need to recall the table, the how many Somanasa Sahagata there in the unwholesome consciousness. I said the only 4 Somanasa Sahagata in unwholesome consciousness. Then in the rootless consciousness, we can find only 2 Somanasa Sahagata. Then the sense-sphere beautiful consciousness, 24 sense-sphere beautiful consciousness are divided half by half. The 12 are Somanasa Sahagata, accompanied by joy, and the other 12 consciousness are accompanied by equanimity. So that is quite easy. So if we calculate the Somanasa Sahagata, the consciousness accompanied by joy in the 54 sense-sphere consciousness, we get the 18 Somanasa Sahagata. So there are 18 consciousness, 4 in unwholesome, 2 in rootless consciousness, and 12 in sense-sphere beautiful consciousness. In this way, 18 consciousness are accompanied by joy. So 18 Somanasa Sahagata. Then there are only 2 Domanasa Sahagata. You can find them only in the unwholesome. So the 2 consciousness accompanied by displeasure, you can find in unwholesome consciousness. So the last types, the 5, number 5, the Upekha Sahagata. So there are 32 consciousness accompanied by equanimity. So we can select out from the table. So 6 consciousness accompanied by equanimity, you can find 6 consciousness of unwholesome consciousness, and there are 6 consciousness in 12 unwholesome consciousness accompanied by equanimity. Then the 14 Ruthless consciousness are accompanied by equanimity. So this becomes 20, and there are 12 consciousness accompanied by equanimity in sincere, beautiful consciousness. So in this way, we can find 32 consciousness accompanied by equanimity in 54 sincere consciousness. This is the enumeration by way of feeling. So in this way, we can analyze all types of consciousness by way of feeling. So this is how we can enumerate, we can select of the 54 sense-sphere consciousness according to the feeling, accompanying feeling. Okay, then let's continue to the enumeration by way of roots. So, okay, you may remember there are 6 roots. The wholesome roots, unwholesome root 3, and the other roots 3. So, greed, hatred, and delusion. Non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. So, some consciousness are devoid of roots, any roots. So, they are not accompanied by any roots. That's why they are called ahetuka citta. Ahetuka citta. Oh, sorry. This should be the rootless consciousness 18. So number 1 should be rootless consciousness 18. So then number 2, some consciousness are accompanied by the one roots. So second one, number 2 should be one rooted. So this is not double rooted, it's one rooted or single rooted consciousness 2. The number 2 is eka hetuka citta. That eka hetuka citta is one rooted consciousness or single rooted consciousness. So among the 54 sense-sphere consciousness, we can find only 2 types of consciousness. They are called the mohamula citta. So that two mohamula citta are accompanied by only one root, which is called the moha. That's why they are called eka hetuka. So that is single rooted or one rooted consciousness. The number 3 group, that is dvihetuka citta. That is double rooted consciousness. So there are 22 double rooted consciousness. So there are 8 lower mula consciousness. So the lower mula consciousness, if you remember that in the akusala, in the lesson where we study in akusala, study the akusala consciousness, I said the lower mula consciousness is accompanied by the lobha and moha. Dosa mula consciousness are accompanied by dosa and moha because the moha is common roots to all unwholesome consciousness. So here, 8 lower mula consciousness are double rooted because they have the roots of lobha, greed, and moha, delusion. And dosa mula, 2 dosa mula consciousness, they also have the 2 roots. One is the dosa, hatred, and moha, which is common roots. So in this way, there are 10 unwholesome consciousness of double rooted consciousness. Then the 12 jnana vipayutta in the sense-sphere beautiful consciousness, 24 sense-sphere beautiful consciousness, there are 12 jnana sampayutta. It means the associated with knowledge. And the others are jnana vipayutta, 12 jnana vipayutta. They are dissociated from knowledge. So here, if the knowledge is absent, only 2 roots remain. They are non-greed and non-hatred. That is why there are 12 and Jnana Vipayutta, they are double-rooted consciousness. So in this way, we can count the 22 Dvihetuka Citta, or 22 double-rooted consciousness in 54 sense-pure consciousness. So 8 Lobha Mula, 2 Dosa Mula, and 12 Jnana Vipayutta. Jnana Vipayutta. So dissociated from knowledge. So by the absence of knowledge or wisdom. So only 2 roots. This is the way how we analyze the consciousness according to the roots. So the last one, it should be number 4, Tihetuka Citta. So Tihetuka Citta, translated in the triple-rooted consciousness. Among the 54 sense-pure consciousness, we can find only 12 consciousness. They are Jnana Sampayutta. So it is associated with knowledge. There are 12 consciousness in sense-pure beautiful consciousness. They are associated with knowledge. So by the knowledge, it becomes the 3 roots. So non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, which is called the knowledge or jnana. So jnana sampayutta, 12 are triple-rooted consciousness. In this way, if we count the ahetuka rootless consciousness 18 and ekahetuka single-rooted or one-rooted consciousness 2, it becomes 20. Then dvihetuka citta, so double-rooted consciousness 22, it becomes the 40. Understand that 22 and become the 44. So the Tihetuka Citta, triple-rooted consciousness, are 12. So this is how we can analyze the 54 sense-pure consciousness by way of roots. Enumeration by way of prompting. So you already find the word asankharika and sasankharika in unwholesome consciousness and sense-pure beautiful consciousness 24 also you can find. So there are 5 consciousness unprompted, so asankharika, without any encouragement. There are 5 in unwholesome and 12 in the sense-pure beautiful consciousness. And sasankharika with encouragement is translated as a prompt. 5 in unwholesome and 12 in sense-pure beautiful consciousness. So the ahetuka consciousness are exclusive. So they are not identified with prompt or unprompt. And also 2 mohamula consciousness, because it is under the influence of moha. So it cannot be a prompt or unprompt. It cannot be identified as prompt or unprompted. So in this way, they become the exclusive. So 20 are exclusive. So in this way, we can analyze the 54 consciousness by way of prompting. But these enumeration are very useful when we study Abhidhamma in advanced level. So that's why in the basic level, we have to know how we can analyze and from which direction we can analyze in that way. So we have to know different way of analyzing the consciousness. Then, okay, let's continue. The enumeration by way of kinds. So kinds refers to the wholesome, unwholesome, resultant, and functional. So 54 consciousness can be divided into 4 groups. the unwholesome consciousness is clear, all are unwholesome, 12. Then the 18 rootless consciousness and 24 sense pure beautiful consciousness can be analyzed by way of the wholesome or unwholesome, wholesome resultant or functional. So only 8 wholesome consciousness in the sense pure consciousness. So that is all the great wholesome or the sense pure wholesome consciousness, only 8. In number 3, the resultant consciousness are 23. So you may remember in the 18 rootless consciousness, we get the 15 resultants. Then the great resultant 8 become the 23 resultant consciousness. Then the functional consciousness also, you can find 3 functional consciousness in rootless consciousness, 18 rootless. Then together with the great functional consciousness, it becomes the 11. So altogether, the 54 sense pure consciousness are divided into 4 groups according to the kinds. Okay, this is the enumeration by way of kinds. Then, so enumeration by way of quality, so refers to the beautiful and non-beautiful. So non-beautiful is called the asobana in Pali. There are 30 asobana, non-beautiful. They are 12 unwholesome and 18 rootless. Unwholesome with the unwholesome roots. It is not beautiful. That's why asobana. And rootless, because they are not associated with any roots, like floating plants, and they are not so stable. That is why they are also not beautiful. So asobana. So 30 are sobana, and 24 are sobana. So 30 and 24 become the 54 sense pure consciousness. Okay. So in the lesson 11, we already studied why they are called the Kama Vajara, sense pure consciousness. The consciousness, their proper domain is the sensuous plane of existence. 11 sensuous planes of existence. They usually occur or repeatedly arise there in the 11 sensual plane of existence. Then, okay. So there are 11 four vocal states and human realms. Then 6 sensuous heaven. It become the 11 sensual planes. And so, okay, so this slide is already studied in lesson 11. So no problem. So the karma and resultant are identified. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, this slide is from lesson 10. Here, in order to understand the consciousness, how consciousness arises, we already studied the coming together with the receiver object and eye sensitivity, sound and ear sensitivity, etc. They becomes the condition to give rise to the unconsciousness, etc. In this way, the consciousness arises. So these consciousness are sense pure consciousness. So we already count the 54 sense pure consciousness. Then we need to know how they arise in our daily life. So we see, whenever we see the unconsciousness arise, the unconsciousness is one of the 54 sense pure consciousness. And whenever we hear, that is ear consciousness arise. In this way, the consciousness, sense pure consciousness are arising in the process of mind of the beings, living beings. Okay, so this is In this way, also here you see the tangible object and also the mental object. Depends on that. The consciousness are classified. There are the 5 consciousness, the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness. They are the 5 2 set of 5-fold sense consciousness, and Dvipanja Vijnana in Pali. And also we call the mind consciousness element. These are Manodhatu in Pali. That Manodhatu, there is the 3 consciousness. And Pancharvara Vachana, and Pancharvara Vachana is abiding consciousness in 5 door abiding consciousness. And 2 receiving consciousness. They are collectively called the mind consciousness element. Okay, so let's continue to the enumeration by plane of existence. So that consciousness, the 54 consciousness are named as the Kamavachara because they repeatedly occurs in sensual planes. But sometimes they can arise in other plane of existence. They are called the Rupa Vachara, the 5 material sphere, and Arupa Vachara, and immaterial sphere. So you may remember I already introduced the 31 plane of existence. There, in that 31 plane of existence, there are 11 plane of existence. They are the sensual planes. Okay, so if we analyze the 54 consciousness, the 54 sense sphere consciousness, although they are named as the Kamavachara consciousness, sense sphere consciousness, but they can arise in other plane of existence too. That's why we can divide them into 3 groups. Number one, some consciousness can occur only in sensual planes. So they cannot arise in the 5 material sphere or immaterial sphere plane. And second types can occur Rupa Vachara, so 5 material sphere as well. And the third type can occur in all planes meaning including the immaterial sphere planes. So it means because the consciousness is mentality, so in all plane refers to the planes of existence where mentality can arise. So you may remember the Asanya Satta, the plane of existence, the Asanya Satta, that is in the 5 material sphere existence, that types only materiality arise. So there's no mentality in that plane of existence, Asanya Satta. So no consciousness will arise in that plane. Okay, so we get the 3 category of consciousness according to the plane of existence where they arise. So let's continue to the table. Okay, here in the left side column, you see the types. There, the unwholesome 12, ruthless 18, and sense sphere beautiful 24. These are 54 sense sphere consciousness. There, okay, from the top we see the Lova Mula and Dosa Mula and Moha Mula. So Lova Mula are divided into 2. Detigata Sampayutta associated with round view, and Detigata Viputta dissociated from round view. So these 2 are divided because they're divided into these are divided into 2 groups because they have different natures where they can arise the plane of existence according to the plane of existence. So the Detigata Sampayutta, that is associated with round view. So round view cannot arise in the Suddhavasa. So this understanding will relate to is related to the next slide, analyzed by way of individual. So where in the Suttavasa plane of existence, the name of Suttavasa, it is the pure abodes. So pure abodes, only 3 types of individuals can be there in Suttavasa. So there is Anagami Palatana, Arhata Megatana, and Arhata Palatana. So these highest 3 highest noble person does not have the round view. They don't have any round view at all. So in the Suttavasa realms, only 3 noble persons can arise. So there is no opportunity to arise in the Suttavasa for Dedicata Samyutta for consciousness. So in the Lower Mula 8 consciousness, 4 consciousness associated with round view, they cannot arise in the Suttavasa. And also Asanya Satta, where there is no consciousness. So 6 plane of existence will be the exclusion, so exception. That's why among the 31 plane of existence, the Dedicata Samyutta consciousness can arise in 25 planes of existence. So that is 25. The 25 you can count. The 11 sense-sphere consciousness, sense-sphere plane of existence, and the 14 Brahma world in that way. So before we study this table, we need to keep the 31 plane of existence in our mind so that we could understand properly. So the Dedicata Samyutta, for Dedicata Samyutta consciousness can arise only in 24 plane of existence. In this way, we will find the other consciousness. So the second Loba Mula, Dedicata Vipayutta form, they arise in 30 because Dedicata Vipayutta can arise in the Anagami Palatana's mind. So that can arise in the Suttavasa realms too. That's why only one Asanya Satta will be exception. So 30, they can arise in 30 plane of existence. Then Dosa Mula. So Dosa Mula consciousness cannot arise in the Brahma's mind. So they cannot arise in the 5 material sphere and also immaterial sphere. So they can arise only in sensual planes. So 11 sensual planes. But there's no Dosa Mula consciousness in Brahmawa. It means that no Brahma get angry. Because to become a Brahma, they have to practice the meditation up to the jhana level. So the jhana, before the jhana at the preliminary stages, the dosa, hatred are removed by the jhana fetters, the previous stages of jhana fetters. Okay, so Mohamula consciousness, one is Vichikecha Sahagata, is with doubt. So there also depends on the individual. So that cannot arise in the Suttavasa because only 3 highest noble person are there. Then Asanya Satta, in this way, they also same as the first one. So 25. 6 are exception and 25. Then Odacha Sahagata. So Odacha Sahagata consciousness can arise in the Anagami Palatana's mind too. So that can reach to the Suttavasa too. Only one exception. So the Odacha Sahagata consciousness can arise in 30 planes of existence. Okay, this is how unwholesome consciousness can be analyzed by the planes of existence where they can arise. Then rootless, 18 rootless consciousness. So eye consciousness and ear consciousness. Here, the concept depends on the Brahma wall. The Brahma, they have the eye sensitivity and ear sensitivity, but they don't have nose sensitivity, tongue sensitivity, and body sensitivity. That's why the five consciousness are divided into two groups. So eye consciousness and ear consciousness can arise in the Brahma's mind too. So they can reach to the Brahma wall. But in the Arupa realms, because they all depends on the sensitivity, which is the materialities in for reality, ultimate reality. That's why they cannot arise in Arupa realms, because there's no eye sensitivity or ear sensitivity materiality in Arupa realms. And also they cannot arise in Asanyasata. In this way, the 5 plane of existence will be exception. So 26, they can arise in 26 realms of planes of existence. But for the nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness, they cannot reach up to the Brahma world, because the Brahma does not have the nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness, although they have the appearance, the form of nose, the form of tongue, or the form of body, but they don't have the sensitivity. And the absence of materiality of sensitivity, the consciousness are also absent. That's why they can arise only in sensual planes. Then the other group, Samparichana receiving 2, Sandirana investigation 3, and Pancharara Vajana, 5 sense door averting. They are also the same as the eye consciousness and ear consciousness group, because when the eye consciousness arrives, these are in the process. So they receive, they investigate, and they abut to the objects. That's why they also same as the eye consciousness and ear consciousness. So they arise in 26 realms. Then Hasitupada. So Hasitupada can arise only in Arhat's mind. That is why the Arhat cannot be in Asanyasata and Apaya. But the Hasitupada is smile producing. It based on the materiality to smile. If there is no materiality, nobody can smile. That is why that also absent in the Arupa realms. So Hasitupada, smile producing consciousness, can arise only in 22 plane of existence. So 9 plane of existence are absent, exception. Then Manorara Vajana. So the less rootless consciousness or Manorara Vajana is mind door at button. So it can arise wherever my mental process arises. So the only one exception, Asanyasata. So it can arise in 30 plane of existence. Then we can continue to the sensible, beautiful consciousness 24. That's divided into 3 groups. So great wholesome consciousness H can arise in the 30 planes of existence. So sometimes even in the even in the process of apaya beings, so woeful beings, they can develop sometimes the wholesome. That's why the wholesome consciousness can arise in 30 planes of existence. But the resulting consciousness to perform the function of the reborn or Bodhisandi, the rebirth linking of chutti or death, etc. It can arise only in the sensual planes, only in the sensual planes. It cannot arise in the time material plane of existence and immaterial plane of existence. So only in 11 plane of existence. Then the last group, great functional consciousness, that also arise only in our heart minds, only in our heart's mind. So, but that functional consciousness can arise in the Arupa realms too. So it becomes the 26. The exception are the Asanya Saddha and 4 Apaya. So in this way, we can analyze 54 sense-sphere consciousness by way of planes of existence where they arise. Then the next slides will explain about the analyze by way of individual. So that was much more easier than previous slides. So here, Detigata Sampayutta group is only in ordinary person, because when one attain the Sotapatti Magga, the round view are removed. That's why Detigata Sampayutta can arise only in ordinary person's mind. Then Detigata Vipayutta, say, except Arahats and Paul Magatana. So it is clear in the Arahat's mind, there's no unwholesome consciousness. And for Magatana, so Magatana person, the path consciousness arise only the moment of path consciousness is called the Magatana. So path individual, stream entry, or like this. That's why the other consciousness cannot arise in form Magatana. So Magatana, the individual of the path consciousness. The 5 individuals are exception. That's why that becomes the up to the anagami, so non-returners. So 4 ordinary person and Sotapanna, Sakadagami, and Anagami. So Detigata Vipayutta 4 can arise in 7 individuals' mind. And for the Dosa Mula, so Dosa Mula cannot arise in the Anagami's mind, because Anagami Magga remove the hatred. And then Arahat's mind also. So 2 Palatana, Anagami, and Arahata, and also 4 Magatana is become the 6 noble persons' mind. The Dosa Mula cannot arise. So only Sotapanna, Sotapatti, Palatana, and Sakadagami Palatana, and the ordinary person 4 will become the 6. So Dosa Mula consciousness can arise in the process of 6 individuals. Then the Mohamula consciousness, the Vichikicha Sahagata. So you may heard about that. When one attains the Sotapatti Magga, it removes the round view and doubt. So here Vichikicha, doubt, is removed by the path consciousness. That's why it can arise only in ordinary person's mind. There's no doubt in the noble person's mind. Then the less unwholesome consciousness, Uttacha Sahagata, that except Arahata Palatana, Arahats, and 4 Magatana, because there's no opportunity to arise the other consciousness at the moment of Magatana. So they also 7 persons arise in 7 individuals. Then 18 ruthless consciousness. So they are divided into the 17 ruthless consciousness except Hasitupada. So there are the 18 ruthless consciousness are divided into 2. One is Hasitupada and the other is the rest 17. So 17 consciousness can arise except for Magatana. So the 8 individuals remain. And Hasitupada, as I mentioned, that it arises only in a heart's mind. So they are in different individual. So in this way, we can understand that which consciousness can arise in which individual's mind. Then for the sense pure consciousness, great wholesome consciousness can arise in the 7 individuals' mind there, except the Arahat. So in the Arahat's mind, as we have studied, the functional consciousness arise, because if wholesome consciousness arise, that will produce resultant in next life, because Arahat has no more future life. So instead of wholesome consciousness, the functional consciousness arise. So the Arahat is exception. That becomes the 7. Then the resultant consciousness are divided into 2 groups. One is Jnana Samyutta and Jnana Vipyutta. So there in the Puthujjana, 4 ordinary person, one is Tihetuka and the other Dvihetuka and Ahituka in this way. So the Jnana Samyutta is mean the associated with knowledge. Only in the Tihetuka Puthujjana and for Phalatthana is become the is become the 5. So Tihetuka Puthujjana is 1 and the 4 Phalatthana. So they can arise in the 5 individuals' mind. The 7 are exception. So Megathana and the other ordinary person are exception. Then for Jnana Vipyutta, because it is Jnana Vipyutta, it can arise in the Dvihetuka Puthujjana, so double-rooted individual, and Tihetuka Puthujjana and triple-rooted individual, and also for Phalatthana, it becomes the 6th person. And the last one, the great functional consciousness, arise only in Arahat's mind. In this way, we can analyze 54 sense-pure consciousness by way of individual. So here, the individuals in the plane of existence. So to understand clearly the consciousness arise in the individual, consciousness arise in the plane of existence. So we need to study this table that show the individuals in the plane of existence. So in the 4 woeful states, so you have to keep there are 12 individuals. We already mentioned 12 individuals. So in the woeful states, 4 woeful states, only one type of individual can be found, the Dogati Ahituka Puthujjana. So woeful, ruthless individual. So in 4 apaya woeful state, you can find only one type of individual. This Dogati Ahituka. So you cannot find the Dvihetuka or Tihetuka, ordinary person or noble person in the woeful states. Then in the human realms and past Deva realm, which is called the Chatumaharajika, in these 2 realms of existence, 11 individuals can be found, except the Dogati Ahituka. Dogati Ahituka is in the previous one, the woeful, ruthless individual. So that individual can be reborn only in the 4 woeful states. So we cannot find that type of individual in human realms and the Deva realms. So in 2 realms, we can find the 11. Then 6 higher Deva realms, except Chatumaharajika. So the other higher, except Chatumaharajika, we can find the 10 individuals. So 10 individuals, there must be 2 exceptions. One is Dogati Ahituka and Sugati Ahituka. So it means that 2 Ahituka are exceptions. They cannot be reborn in higher Deva realms, sensual Deva realms. Then among the 20 Brahma realms, so 10 Brahma realms up to the Vihapala. So you can check in the table where we study the 31 plane of existence, Okasa Loka. So there are 10 Brahma worlds up to the Vihapala. There in 10 Brahma worlds, we can find 9 individuals. They are triple-rooted individuals, It means the one ordinary person, which is called the triple-rooted individual, or ordinary person, and all noble person. Noble person are 8, so it becomes the 9 triple-rooted individuals. Then Asanya Saddha, in the Asanya Saddha, only one person, Sukati Ahituka, is only one person can be found in Asanya Saddha. Then in Suddhavasa 5, so the pure abode, there the 3 highest noble person, as I just mentioned there, the Anagami Palatana, Arhata Magatana, and Arhata Palatana. Only highest 3 noble person are found in Suddhavasa. Then in the immaterial sphere planes 4, there the triple-rooted individual, that is the ordinary person, and 7 noble person. So 7 noble person, there are altogether 8 noble person. Except the Sotapatti Megatana person, because the Sotapatti, the mega consciousness, the path stream entry consciousness cannot arise in the immaterial sphere. That is why that becomes the exception. So altogether 8 individuals are can be found in the immaterial sphere consciousness. This is the how many individuals arise in which plane of existence we can identify in this way. Okay. Then the last one, this is the already mentioned in lesson 2. This is 12 types of individual, and then the list is given in the lesson 2. You can review. So in this lesson, we already studied about the 54 sense sphere consciousness in analyzing in different way. So feeling, rules, prompting, kinds, quality, and also how they arise and where they arise, and in which person they can be found. Okay, so this is the 54 sense sphere consciousness. I hope you can make clear and review on again and again. And so in the next lesson, we will continue to the primaterial consciousness, Rupa Vajra and Arupa Vajra, and so on. So that's all for now. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much for Bhante teaching today. May we ask Bhante to lead us in making aspiration and sharing the merits, please.
Okay, let's make aspiration and share our merit to all beings. So repeat after me. Imina punya kamina.
Imina punyam bhantena.
Mami bala samagamo.
Mame bala samegamo.
Satam samagamo hodu.
Satam samagame hontu.
Yawa nibbana patiya.
Yava nibbana patiya.
Idami punyam.
Idame punyam.
Asawakaya vahang hodu.
Asavakaya vaham hotu.
Idami punyam.
Idame punyam.
Nibbana sapachayo hodu.
Nibbana sapachayo hontu.
Mama punya bhagam.
Mama punyam bhagam.
Sabha sadanam bhajimi.
Sabha sadanam bhajemi.
Te sabe.
Te sabe.
Me samam.
Me samam.
Punya bhagam labandu.
Punyam bhagam labantu. Sadhu. 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 Thanks again, Bhante, and see you next week.